it's the 10th anniversary, I hope you don't mind if I take 2 stories. I know! But if I put them into one, is that okay, Richard? No, okay. Right, well, so we'll start with the story of the king, the Raja. A good king, a good Raja, who, yes, he wears magnificent silk clothes, he wears a beautiful turban, bejewelled and bedecked, but what he really loves doing is gardening, dressed in old clothes, working alongside those other people, tending the plants and the flowers, because he really didn't enjoy the life of the court. He was happiest when he was wearing his shabby old trousers and some tatty sandals and an old linen top, torn and muddy. But he knew he had to put on his silks, his robes, his turban, his jewels, and go back to the court. He wanted to be a good king. He wanted to be a just king. And if you are going to be a good and a just king, you rely on other people. And what qualities of those other people do you rely upon?
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Honesty.
Honesty. That's a good start. Wisdom and honesty. If only he could trust the honesty of those who advised him, and particularly his chief advisor. And so the Raja waited until the time of the month when the moon was high and full. And he did what so many kings in stories do when they want to find out what the kingdom is truly like. He decided to leave his palace. But of course, he would be easily recognised dressed in silks and robes and a turban and bejewelled if only he had some old clothes to wear. Has he?
Yes.
Why?
In the garden.
So he put on his gardening clothes and he made his way into the throne room. Behind the throne there was a secret door, and he pressed the panel. It took him out into the garden. He made his way through the garden to the garden wall. And on the garden wall there's now, the gardeners, you're going to have to help me here. I have to be honest. I have no more interest in gardening that goes any further than AstroTurf. However, is it Bougainvillea? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Bougainvillea. Okay, so good. We can edit that bit out. There was beautiful Bougainvillea, which is a plant that grows up walls and along the tops of walls. It's been nodding. Thank goodness I got that right. Wikipedia is a wonderful thing. Where the Bougainvillea hung over the wall of the garden, there was a door. And he let himself out of the door and into the city. I told you there were 2 stories. So once, long ago, there was a thief. And she was a good thief. Well, not that good. She still lived in a hovel. I mean, she was persistent, let's say then, rather than good. She was dishonest. She was a liar. She was a thief, she was a crook, and she drove her grandmother insane, to the point where her grandmother said to her, "What will I do to you, for you are breaking my heart? Can you not change one thing in your life?" And the granddaughter said, "Okay, one thing. From now on, I will always tell the truth." And off she went on her next larcenous visit, because she has decided that, I said, that she was not successful. She was, well, listen, Richard, and she had decided that now was the time to actually do something that changed her life and her grandmother's life forever. She was going to go to the one place in the city where she knew there would be riches, and that was the palace. And so off she went. And she was creeping along the walls when she tripped over. She tripped over a raggedy old beggar lying on the ground, who said, "Look where you're going, for goodness sake." He said, "I was just resting down here, watching the world go past, and you trip over me. Where are you going at this time of night?" Now, of course, what she should have said was, "I'm just going for a walk. I'm going to smell the night air." But she done what? She promised that she would tell the truth, and so she said, I'm going to the palace to steal some treasure. And the beggar said, really? Well, maybe I can help you then. Come this way. We'll go along the wall of the garden of the palace. You see this bougainvillea here in the moonlight? You see the way it hangs over? If you just reach behind there, you'll find there's a door. And that will take you into the garden. And if you then go to the palace walls and just knock along the wall of the palace that's next to the garden, you'll hear an echo. And when you hear the echo, push, and you will find yourself coming out into the throne room. You will find yourself coming out not only into the throne room, but behind the throne of the Raja himself. And under his throne, you will see a box of silver. Open it, and you will find treasure as you have never imagined. Now, I say that she was not successful, but she was persistent. And she was also not stupid. And so she said, how do you, a beggar, know all of this? And he said, well, there was a time when I lived in the palace, but the Raja is a man who seeks honesty in other people, and so I have ended up out here. That seemed fair enough. So, that's the story. She reached behind the bougainvillea and she found the door. She went through, and sticking close to the shadows in the garden, she made her way to the wall of the palace. She very quietly, she pushed gently and heard a click. The door opened, and she made her way into the throne room. She had to wait a few minutes until her eyes had become accustomed to the dark, and she noticed the great throne. And there was a space underneath it. Now, she was behind the throne, of course, at this point, so she could kneel down, and she didn't have to worry about anybody coming in, because the throne was so huge. And she felt around, and there was a silver box, and she pulled it out, and in the moonlight, it shone. And she opened the silver box, and not one, not two. It's a story. There are 3 beautiful diamonds, huge rocks, each perfectly faceted. And she looked down, and she said to herself, do I really deserve this great treasure? Now, she'd asked herself a question. The problem is, if you ask yourself a question, that demands an answer. What has she promised?
Tell the truth.
Damn. Not really, no. I don't really deserve all of this treasure. I deserve 2 of them, anyway. So she took 2 of them, popped them in her pockets, closed the lid, and pushed it back under the throne. She then made her way back to the door behind the throne, closed it, stuck close to the wall in the garden, underneath the bougainvillea, threw out, and there was the beggar, and he said, how did you do? And she said, oh, it's just as you said, treasure beyond anything I could imagine. Oh, but what do you deserve for helping me? She'd asked a question. And she made a promise to, oh, you deserve half of it, don't you? So she took the diamond out and gave it to the beggar, who looked at it and looked at her in the moonlight and popped it in his pocket, and then off she went into the shadows, back to her hovel and her grandmother, not realizing that following her just behind was a very smug-looking beggar. The next morning, in the palace, the Raja was sitting upon his throne. Now, normally in the morning, he would be in the garden, getting nice and dirty. But this morning, he was sitting on his throne, drumming his fingers on the arm. And he said, where is my advisor? And the advisor was brought in. He said, there has been a theft. And his advisor said, Your Majesty, surely not. This palace is well guarded all through the night. We would have heard an alarm. And the king said, look in the silver box that is under the throne and tell me what is in there. And so the advisor went to the back of the throne, pulled out the silver box, opened it, and in it he saw... Am I going to have to introduce a test as part of this? And the prize is yours, sir. Well done. A diamond. She took 2. There were 3. A diamond. And so what did he say to the Raja?
Yes, there were 3.
Oh, no. He looked and he thought, there has been a theft. He took the single diamond and pocketed it. He said, Your Majesty, all 3 of the diamonds have been taken. And the king said, really? And then I know by whom. Because, of course, he had followed the young thief home. And so he sent his soldiers to the young thief's home, and the young thief and her grandmother were dragged before the Raja, who said, You have stolen my diamonds. 3 diamonds you took from me. And the young thief said, Your Majesty. What did she promise?
To tell the truth.
I did take your diamonds, but I only took 2 because I only deserved 2. And the advisor said, Your Majesty, is this a likely story? And the young thief continued, and then I gave 1 away to a beggar because he had shown me how to get into the palace, and I thought that he deserved it. And the advisor said, Your Majesty, is this a likely tale? She is a thief. Hang her from the nearest tree. And the Raja said, Yes, it is likely. For here is your diamond and here is the beggar. Take him and turn him upside down. And the soldiers turned the advisor upside down, and there was a clunk, and a diamond rolled across the ground. And so the Raja found honesty. And he found an honest advisor, who then lived in the palace and shared her wisdom with him, for she always told the truth, as she had promised her grandmother. And of course her grandmother's life was changed. She no longer lived in a hovel, she lived in a palace. After all, the hovel was needed. For where else? Because the king's former advisor lived now that he was penniless. And so those are my 2 stories of the Raja and the thief brought together in the 3 diamonds. And that was how you and I have told it.